Hello, this is Del Chatterson from Crime Writers of Canada. I'm the regional representative for Quebec and Atlantic Canada, and I'm also a writer of the Dale Hunter series of crime novels about an entrepreneur in Montreal fighting crime and corruption in the international computer business. Today, I'm introducing Richard King, another author member of Crime Writers of Canada. Richard has a history as a bookseller. He was the owner of the Paragraphe bookstore in Montreal. And he's written now a number of novels, including biographies, crime, and he's also a books columnist for CBC Radio in Montreal. Richard, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to meet you. Why don't you go ahead yourself and elaborate on that introduction and give us a little bit of background on your books.
Sure. Thank you very much for inviting me, Del. As Del said, I started off my career in the book industry as a bookseller. First with classic bookshops, assuming there's anyone around who remembers them, and then starting my own bookstore with my partner Jonathan Penny, Paragraphe Bookstore and Cafe. The cafe is kind of important to the origins of Paragraphe because it was the first bookstore cafe in Canada. And our cafe predates Starbucks and predates Second Cup. And we had to figure it out as we went because really we didn't know all that much about the cafe business. From that, I kind of got into mystery writing, and my first series of mysteries, the publisher refers to them as the Bookshop Mysteries.
Right.
It's kind of a union.
A bit of true history there, Richard.
Well, yeah, my grade 5 teacher told me, write what you know. Yeah. So the principal character in the Bookshop Mysteries is a bookseller by the name of Sam Wiseman, and he, through a series of events, hooks up with a cop, Sergeant Gaston Lemieux, and together they solve mysteries. The first mystery takes place on McGill campus, which was right across the street from Paragraphe Bookstore. In the history department, which is a department I know well because before I was a bookseller, I was in the history business. I did graduate work in French history. So I really kept close to home for the first novel in the series, which was published as A Death at the University. Now, the interesting thing about that series is, even though the publisher named it the Bookshop Mysteries, the books were not available in bookshops. They were only available online. The publisher is a British company, a large British company by the name of Bonnier. They were wonderful to work with. Their editors were terrific, but they, amongst other things, they publish in paper, but they also have this big online presence, and that's where the Bookshop Mysteries were. Anyway, after deciding that I'd kind of run the Bookshop Mysteries as much as I could plot-wise, I started to think about other approaches. Okay. Now, during all this, I was a volunteer in the emergency department at the Jewish General Hospital in Montreal. And working there, I noticed that nurses are brilliant diagnosticians, which is a baby step away from the skill that detectives use, both in real life and in fiction, to solve crimes. So I started to think about plots involving nurses and detectives and came up with the first novel called A Stab at Life, in which a nurse by the name of Annie Linton meets a cop, Gilles Bellechasse, after he's shot. She's the nurse on triage duty when he's wheeled into the emergency department. He gets better, of course, comes back to thank her. They start a courtship, and she becomes involved in solving crimes with him. Annie Linton is based on a real character, a nurse by the name of Margaret Quincy.
Is the story based on a particular incident or a crime that you were aware
of? No,
I
make them all up. Okay. Although I should add,
okay, it's not a crime in the hospital, but it's a crime that features a nurse helping.
Right. Okay. They're not medical mysteries. A lot of them take place in and around the Gursky Memorial Hospital, but they're not in and of themselves medical mysteries. This is owing to the fact that I know nothing about medicine and even less about science. And when a character in the novels has medical symptoms, I check them with Maggie to make sure I've got them right, because I really haven't got a clue. But it's good to have a resource like that.
Yeah, all of us need some sort of a technical review for the things that we talk about that we're not so familiar with.
Exactly, to help me with sort of the medical backstory.
And there's no connection to the bookstores in these novels?
Nope. Well, now that you mention it, I'm reusing some of the characters that I developed for the Bookshop Mysteries. The principal character in A Stab at Life, and now in the second novel, which has just come out called Banking at Life, is Gilles Bellechasse. But he works with one of the cops in the Major Crimes Division is Gaston Lemieux, who was the principal cop in the Bookshop Mysteries. He's a great character. I just didn't want to waste him. So I brought him back.
So
Also,
does that qualify as a continuation of the series then, or that you
no, I've just put the character in sort of a different situation. But other than that, the series are completely different.
Yeah, that works for Michael Connolly and John Grisham. I know they bring characters back and forth and in and out different novels.
Well, it's a big investment of time and effort to create a good character.
Exactly.
A character that the writer likes. Because as a writer, as you know, you spend a lot of time with your imaginary characters. And if you don't like them, it's very, very difficult to spend that kind of time with them. I think I spend more time with Annie Linton and Gilles Bellechasse than I do with my girlfriend or my ex-wife or people that I'm really close to, especially during COVID when you can't go anywhere with anybody.
Yeah, that's it. They became our new in-house social organization.
That's right. I'm always with Annie and Gilles.
Let me ask you, Richard, what do you hear from readers? Because I find it sometimes surprising what they like and don't like about different characters and which ones they want to know more about.
Well, I had a surprising email from a reader when A Stab at Life came out. Just as it was releasing, I posted something on my Facebook page that I forget exactly what I said, something to the effect, I'm thrilled that the book is coming out next month and the principal characters are a nurse and a cop. And one of my Facebook friends, someone who I met at summer camp when I was a 15-year-old counselor and she was a camper, but one way or another have reconnected through the magic of Facebooks. She made the most surprising post of all the posts I've ever seen regarding my books when she said, now remember, no one had read the book at this point. It wasn't out. I was just announcing its release. And this person, her first name is Myra, said, well, if you're going to write a book about a nurse, you should model it after Maggie Quincy, who is the nurse I modeled Annie Linton on. And I just about dropped dead with surprise, not knowing how Myra, who I knew, as I said, many, many decades ago, would know Maggie. Well, as it turned out, she was a patient at the hospital, and Maggie took care of her and her mother and thought she was an exceptional nurse, which she is. And
Maggie like the characterization in the book?
Well, she likes it, but she finds that I put her up on a high pedestal. Okay. Which is very, very, very true. One of the criticisms of A Stab at Life, and this was sort of pointed out by two reviewers, proving that they didn't really understand the books, said, and I'm paraphrasing here, King didn't know whether he wanted to write a cozy or a police procedural.
Okay.
Well, King knew exactly what he was doing. Why would they think I didn't know what I was doing?
I know, that's a lazy reviewer who wants to categorize the book, I find.
Yeah, or not know how to categorize it. The average writer spends 2 or more years writing a book. I intentionally wrote characters whom I liked and I wanted the audience to like.
Okay, tell us a little bit about how you learned the art and craft of writing. I know you ran a bookstore for a long time, so you heard a lot from readers and writers, but where did you learn the craft yourself?
By doing it. Truthfully, I started...
Read a lot, write a lot, that kind of thing?
Well, I've always read a lot. I didn't always write a lot. One of the things I did just to sort of develop some narrative skill, I started writing my dreams. Now, this wasn't writing a dream journal for psychological purposes. This was sort of piecing together a narrative. Because, in a dream, 1 minute you're on Mars, and the next minute you're standing on Peel and St. Catherine, and someone you haven't seen in 50 years, throws a quarter in your coffee cup and so on. There's really no narrative connectivity to them. So I use the dreams as a basis for building narrative connectivity, and then I just dove right into to writing.
And how does your latest novel, Banking on Life, how does it tie into the previous novels? Is it the nurse and the police detective again? Yes.
Once again, it starts off in the emergency department at the Gursky Memorial Hospital. In the opening chapter, one of the characters in the novel, her name is Michaela, suffers from asthma and was having a very serious attack, and so thought it would be smart to go to the hospital. Annie triages her, decides to keep her overnight for observation just to make sure she's fine. She kind of thought she'd be free to go. Over the course of the evening, or the night, I guess you'd say, when security is kind of low in the emergency department, Michaela is attacked by someone who means to do her harm. Michaela gets the better of her attacker and actually kills him. This is not a spoiler because it all happens in the first chapter. Okay. And takes off from the hospital. In the morning, when the morning crew come to check the patients and go over their charts and decide whether to keep them there or send them home, the nurse that comes in looks at the chart, expects to find a young woman, finds a dead man, and all hell breaks loose.
That sounds like a good opening to an interesting story.
Now, this never happened, to my knowledge, in the emergency department, but I thought it would make a really good opening chapter and sort of suck the reader in.
And is that book available yet?
Yes, it's the official release date is the 1st of April, but it is available in bookstores now. I know it's at Paragraphe in Montreal. I don't know who else is carrying it, but I did hear from my publisher that Chapters Indigo have it in some or all of their stores online. As a bookseller, I knew where books were. As a writer, I don't have anything to do with distribution or sales. That there's a sales agency that takes care of that and a distributor that ships. So I just have to hope that they're getting it right. As far as I can tell, they are.
It is available in ebook online as well?
It'll be available online on the 1st of April.
Oh, I see.
The release of ebooks is held until the official pub date.
Okay.
The book industry is kind of confusing with their pub dates and so on. Most people don't know this, but for major bestsellers, books by J.K. Rowling, or books that are part of the Oprah Book Club, they're embargoed until the official release date, which is always a Tuesday. The reason it's always a Tuesday is because that gives the publisher to ensure that they get to all the bookstores in Canada. So if they're shipping on Thursday or Friday of the previous week, it takes till Monday or Tuesday to get them to the coasts and somewhat less time to get them to central Canada. So they're sure that all the books are where they're supposed to be on the Tuesday, and woe betide any bookseller who puts the book up before the official release date.
Yeah.
Other writers, the release date is honored more, I guess, by Amazon. For God only knows what reason. It doesn't make any sense. The rest of the world unpacks the box as soon as it arrives.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You've got some different perspectives based on your history in the book selling business. And what's on your agenda next? Are you still writing ambitiously another novel?
Oh, yes. Well, I've just finished the third novel in the Gilles Belchas Annie Linton series. One of the events in this novel is kind of based on something that happened in the emergency department. I'm not going to go into too much detail. The event in the emergency department ended happily. Someone came in without identification and his life was saved. They worked out who he was. In the book, it turns out to be the sort of the fulcrum for a murder. And now I have to decide whether to take a break from rewriting the third novel and start the fourth, which I've just started plotting, or devote more time to the rewrites. Kind of a hard decision to make. I'm an impatient person and very anxious to get going on the fourth novel in the series. But I think the third one needs some attention still.
It does sound very ambitious. And you're not missing selling the books. You're enjoying writing them now by the sound of it.
Yeah. Well, truthfully, I do miss working in a bookstore. I just loved it, meeting the customers, talking about books and so on. However, that's the past. One has to move on.
Yeah, that seems like the old world. We're all missing the opportunity to meet readers and fans and socialize a little bit and learn exactly what they think of your book.
Yes, exactly.
Very interesting. I congratulate you on your accomplishments, Richard, and we're pleased to have you among us and the Crime Writers of Canada. Thanks for this backgrounder today, and look forward to sharing it on the YouTube channel for Crime Writers of Canada.
Thank you very much. It was great being with you.
My pleasure. I